Next up, we want to talk about Microsoft Store for Business. This is another really nice ad, right? So obviously most of the vendors are kind of following suit. You have the Apple Store, Google, where there's going to be an individual public store, and then there's a business store, right? They want to keep a special set of parameters around for business use. So now with XenMobile, we can integrate with Microsoft Store for Business, right? And the configuration, again, straightforward. We're going to specify an app suffix that's going to be tagged onto any of the Microsoft Business apps that we choose to add, to our store. And then once that's imported, if you will, it'll kind of show up right after you configure it. It'll take a little bit of time, but it'll show up in your normal app list under the XenMobile console, and then you'll have the ability to push that as part of a deployment group, just like any other app or policy. So we'll walk through the menu. Another aspect of the setup is that you need to in the Store for Business, you need to specify basically a link to your Azure instance, right? You're going to have an identifier for your MDM setup, and that's just something you have to specify. And otherwise, again, once it starts to sync up, the apps are imported into the XenMobile. It can be deployed, again, along with other apps. Okay, so and probably the biggest aspect of the setup, right, that I had mentioned is that you have to configure integration with Azure. You have to set up it as a identity provider. So here we are in the in the settings area for IDP, and there's three things we're going to have to pull out of our Azure environment. First is going to be the tenant ID. Once we paste this in, these fields below are going to populate. So kind of convoluted URLs there, but these are all going to key off of this tenant ID. And then other couple of values we're going to need are the client ID and then the key. This is going to be something unique that you generate, and you have to be sure to save off so you don't lose that. So these settings, along with setting up that that MSB suffix, are what's required to get us going, and then we're off and running onto the store to pick up the Microsoft Store for Business apps that we want to use. So here in my Azure console, I'm going to drop into Active Directory, and if we go down to Properties, here's where we're going to find our tenant ID. It's called Directory ID. So in fairness to our development team, we're going to do this in parallel to Microsoft work, right? So maybe a little bit different labels. So this goes in the tenant ID. Let's see. All right, tenant ID. And then client ID is going to be where we drop into the mobility section of Azure. We have a few configured there, so you have to know which one you're integrating with. We drop into the application settings, properties, and then here's the application ID, right? So the application ID is going to correspond to the client ID. And then last but not least, we have our keys here. So when you first create the key, it's going to give you the value that you're going to plug in, and that's a one-shot deal, so you need to save that off. And really the way it works is you're just going to give it a description, you set a duration, and then when you go ahead and save that, the value is going to appear for your key string, right? And that's what you need to save off, and that's where you're going to need to plug in the XenMobile console as well. So go ahead and delete that. Okay, and then let's see. Last bit is I already have it configured on that other site, but the last bit is to configure the Microsoft Store for Business. So again, under Settings, Platforms, here when you configure your IDP, right, which I have done on the other site, you're going to have that listed in the drop down here, and then here's where you're going to put in the suffix. It's just going to be a digit, string, whatever, that's going to identify those apps that are in your app store, so you know that they came from the Microsoft Store for Business. So if I go ahead and drop out of here, I drop into apps, and then I just sort by type. So see under public app store, I call mine the suffix MSB, right? So anything that shows up with underscore MSB, that was actually imported from the Microsoft Store for Business. And again, obviously everyone familiar with XenMobile, once it's in here, you can just assign it to your delivery group and push it to the user. So we'll go ahead and push that, show that on the client side real quick. But let's see, before that, we want to drop into the to the store here. So here, oops. So here's the store for business. I'm already logged in, and so when I'm logging into the store, I'm logging in with my Azure account domain admin. This is going to be the same, admin that I would use to get into the Azure console here. And again, that initial setup piece is under manage here. Okay. So here you can see the list of apps that I've added. Again, it's very straightforward. You just go to shop for group. You specify, the section. You find an app you want. Microsoft Sticky Notes. We'll do install. Oh, not install. Sorry. We're going to add that. So yeah, install is, put it on your device, but adding that goes into the actual store for your MDM environment. So if we go back to the console now, so let me go ahead and I'll take one of these and add it to my delivery group, and we'll see if we can get that deployed. Go to my Win10 UEM group. Can I edit? So let's see, I pull in okay, so you see it's not installed yet. All right. Go ahead and complete adding that to the delivery group. Deploy that. All right, let's see. Yeah, for good measure, we can go in and do a sync from the client side. Okay. So here you go. It's appears in the menu. It's installing, and that's a pretty straightforward feature. Works nicely now it's added. So you get the idea. Any of those Microsoft Store for Business apps, the administrator can manage. And so I added free ones, but obviously there's a lot that are paid and required license. And here you can actually administer that. When you get a paid one, you actually buy licenses, and then you can when XenMobile installs those, the count decrements, they're managed now by XenMobile once they're configured in the store.